Welcome, everyone. Good thing I don't have a fear of speaking in public or anything like that. This is a nightmare for an introvert. I've been telling people that on the drive down, I was thinking, oh my God, there's so many people here who aren't going to know each other, and I'm going to have to introduce them all to each other, and that's just like a nightmare for me. But everybody seems to have figured it out, so that's perfect. So to start, I want to thank all of you for making the long trek to scenic Ponoka to celebrate with me as I come to the end of a very, very, very long journey. 10 years ago, this month, I left Toronto and my dreams of becoming the next big television writer in favor of pursuing a different, much more distinguished dream, becoming a writer that makes significantly less money. Unless you're J.K. Rowling. But so what if this little book of mine doesn't generate billions of dollars in royalties, not to mention lucrative film options and merchandising opportunities? I didn't choose to pursue writing for the money, for the prospect of wonderful, delicious money. I did it for the love of the craft, for the opportunity to tell real human stories that might resonate with someone, somewhere, thirsting for quality storytelling. The fact that the stories I write just happen to take place in outer space and involve aliens and robots to some capacity hardly diminishes their potential for emotional impact. In fact, I think it enhances it. After all, story is universal, whether it's set in ancient Greece, Hogwarts Castle, or a galaxy far, far away. Acclaimed screenwriter Robert McKee once said that story represents the currency of human contact. Stories aren't just the province of the entertainment industry. They belong to the common man, forming an integral part of our everyday interactions. Since the dawn of time, before the first hunting dramas hit the cave walls of our earliest ancestors, we've been telling each other stories. The nature and structure of those stories developed over time, evolving from simple tales told around campfires to great myths involving gods and monsters, to sophisticated epics with sweeping musical scores on silver screens, but the essence remained. Story taps something primal within all of us, capturing our imaginations, swaying our hearts, tantalizing our minds, and inspiring us to action. The appreciation of story, both in the telling and in the consuming, is core to our being. Stories educate as much as they entertain. I hold that an effective story should tell us something about the world or ourselves that we hadn't considered before. Stories unite us as human beings. They transcend race, culture, creed, and carbonic composition. They bridge social divides, political rifts, and familial dissent. They bring meaning to the world around us, give our lives a sense of order and purpose, and instill in us hope for a better tomorrow. Stories have shaped our world, our history, and our culture, and they influence who we become in our individual navigations of this mysterious life we all inhabit. The story I've written has giant alien crabs in it, but it also charts a very human exploration, a very human journey of exploration and discovery, one that taught me a great deal about myself and my own life journey as I wrote it. I come from a family of storytellers. To listen to anyone in my family talk, you'd think we all occupy some kind of bizarre sitcom. For years, I've looked at the people in my family, such as my dad, my Uncle Trevor, and even my brother, and I've thought, how the hell did this gene skip me? My dad could tell you a story about going to the kitchen and not being able to find a spoon and make it the wildest thing you've ever heard in your life. I could get held at gunpoint by disco-loving vampires and put you to sleep recounting it. So, I don't know. It's perhaps my lack of skill with oral storytelling that drove me to pursue storytelling in written form. There's a craft to storytelling that I admire, an artistry that cannot be denied. A story needs structure. Structure requires organization, and organization needs planning. I think I enjoy the planning, that is to say the outlining of stories, more than the actual writing of them. I have innumerable outlines for stories great and small in scale, lining the shelves of my office, and only one published book. The funniest part about this is, the book that I did end up publishing didn't really get an outline or even much thought put into it beyond the barest of sequencing because, well, I sort of wrote it by accident. It all began with a chance encounter with a few indie writers at the Edmonton Comic Expo back in 2018. I was not in costume, which somehow made me the weirdo. But I had just finished writing my first novel and was eager to pitch it to anybody who looked like they had ears. In my exploration of the various booths, I happened upon one tucked away in the corner between two larger ones like Stuart Little's house. It belonged to a fledgling publishing company called Stray Books, and it was being manned by a very pretty brunette. Brace yourselves, this is about to get embarrassing. Now, so this brunette, I laid eyes on her and I decided, that girl really needs me to come up and talk to her. Now, perception is everything, but my attempts to flirt with this girl, I felt, bombed faster than Amy Schumer hosting an improv night at a Bible camp. So in an effort to save face, I panicked and spun the conversation into a pitch of myself as a writer. Thankfully, this girl, whose name was Miranda, introduced me to Ian Benke, the CEO of Stray Books and the editor of its flagship publication, Stray Books, or Pulp Kings, a retro sci-fi zine that was yet in its infancy. To quote Humphrey Bogart, it was the start of a beautiful friendship. Now here's this part of the speech where I tell you that that girl is now apparently married to some other guy. And that book is in a desk drawer collecting dust. But the short story that Ian invited me to submit was published in the second issue of Pulp Kings that October. It was called Space Toast, and it was the dawn of something good. They bought the next few short stories, the checks cleared, and the eponymous known universe that factors in this novel began to take shape. Imagine my ecstasy. 30 years old, and already the author of 3 short stories. After the first wave of Pulp Kings wrapped, Ian had me over to his place to discuss the future. He offered me a shot at writing a serial that would run through wave 2, and we immediately retreated to his patio to begin brainstorming what such a story would look like. It was a very productive and fun meeting, one that might have been artificially enhanced. I can't remember because it's all pretty hazy, but the result was a pretty clever hook. What if a guy, some low-level cog in the corporate machine, got offered a coveted promotion in exchange for retrieving a stolen cargo freighter, only to find out that the cargo is his boss's runaway wife? It would be a story of adventure, of exploration, of discovery, of romance, and because I'm kind of a cynic, anti-romance. A few months later, I delivered Love and Reclamation, an adventure serial in 4 parts. I didn't know it at the time, but I'd kind of written a book. The Stray Books crew agreed and planned on releasing it as a standalone after the initial run in Pulp Kings. And had it not been for a certain small business crushing pandemic, history would have taken a slightly different course. Dismayed as I was that Love and Rec ended midway through its run, I did find it rather poetic that my adventure serial ended on a literal cliffhanger. I won't bore you now with the play-by-play of the subsequent months spent feverishly submitting my manuscript to literary agencies, the collection of stacks of rejection letters, researching self-publishing, or being introduced to Friesen Press by my tobacconist. Nor will I recount the solid, exhaustive year I spent editing, expanding, revising, improving, tweaking, fine-tuning, and then completely rewriting everything that I'd already written, including the title. All I'll say is that holding your debut novel in your hands for the first time kind of feels like cradling a wooden doll that you brought to life through black magic. You're not sure if you brought to life something good or bad, but you're going to unleash it onto the world and let them decide. On that note, I've been told that I want to read an excerpt of my novel, and it makes sense to me to start at the beginning. So that's where we'll begin. Truth be told, I find the concept of reading from my novel a little strange because I'm not Truman Capote and this isn't in cold blood. So as I laid awake all last night wondering how I might possibly approach reading a chapter from a silly science fiction humor novel involving giant alien crabs, the best course of action to me seemed to do it as seriously as humanly possible. So without further ado.
Yeah.
In the known universe, a cosmic love story kinda. Prelude. And now, a message from our corporate benefactors. On trillions of screens around millions of worlds, excuse me, throughout thousands of galaxies across corporate space, the latest episode of Nighty Night with Zonin Orion transitioned to a static shot of an impressive black podium flanked by tall blue banners. The podium and the banners were emblazoned with Gallicor's glimmering corporate seal, a simple cargo freighter silhouetted against a supernova and ringed by the slogan, "Space appliances for all your space needs." Behind the podium stood Senior Consumer Relations Officer Walsh Crobbles, corporate spokesman for all territories ranging from the metropolitan hub worlds to the dusty settlements of the fringe. "Fellow corporate citizens," Crobbles said, beginning his regular evening address, "I greet you in the name of our esteemed Chief Executive Overlord, presiding from his humble offices on Sanctorium. As you well know, profits are soaring across developed sectors, the corporate expansion effort is proceeding on schedule, and consumer satisfaction, according to the Citizen Polling Commission, is at an all-time high. Thanks to you and your enduring brand loyalty, the fifth millennium is indeed looking bright." Footnote. The fifth millennium began with the year 4 million, according to the universal calendar. Widely accepted throughout the known universe, it was proposed several millennia ago by a highly influential but mentally unstable space monk as a substitute for the cosmic calendar, a slightly inaccurate dating system that was meant to center around the Big Bang, but was famously off by 4 minutes. Less impressively, the universal calendar uses as its starting date the first recorded use of poop as crop fertilizer. Yes, I have a poop joke on the first page of my book, because at the end of the day, I am a Hilton. However, we cannot afford to lapse in our vigilance, Crobbles continued. Even now, boycottist forces are conspiring against us and everything we've spent millennia manufacturing and distributing. I need not tell you of the pernicious allegations engineered by dissidents and malcontents that continue to be levied against Gallicor and its revolutionary products. Allegations of corporate negligence, inferior product quality, shoddy workmanship, planned obsolescence, violations of personal freedoms, blatant disregard for consumer safety, unsafe working conditions, suppression of information, elimination of competing entities, mass surveillance, unlawful relocation of primitive races. Crobbles paused, tilted his head, adjusted his earpiece, and smiled nervously before resuming. Rest assured, Supreme Head Office Command is working ceaselessly to root out the boycottist extremists responsible for these malicious rumors before they erode the very bedrock upon which our society is built. Universal safety and stability are attainable, but only with your full cooperation. If you or anyone you know has come into contact with a known boycottist, a suspected boycottist, someone you suspect to have been in contact with a known or suspected boycottist, someone you know or suspect to have expressed anti-corporate sentiments, or someone you know or suspect to have harbored anti-corporate thoughts, it is your duty as a loyal corporate citizen to file a report with your local incorporated intelligence office. Failure to do so by you or anyone you know should, of course, also be reported. The price of peace is affordable, especially with our in-house financing options. And remember, if any of your household products, appliances, goods, or hardware ceases to function as advertised, malfunctions when you touch it, or explodes when you enter the room, you have been the victim of sabotage by boycottist infiltrators. Only you can help end the madness by replacing such compromised products with new ones. Crobbles reached under the podium and produced a cumbersome electric toothbrush. On that note, if there's one force you can prevent from conducting acts of infiltration and sabotage all on your own, it's gingivitis. Next quarter, Gallicor will be launching the Sonocush Massage Pro Personal Mouthvac 3000, trademark, to replace all the Model 2000s that were sabotaged last year. Affordable, durable, mandatory. It's the oral defenders citizens deserve. At that moment, several 100,000 of the screens broadcasting Crobbles' address flickered, sparked, and exploded, spraying showers of sparks and glass across living rooms, private cabins, lobbies, and kitchens. In one such living room, Rendell Tubbs, actuary, husband, and father of two, plucked a thin shard of glass out of his ample cheek, stared aghast at the blown-out screen of his Gallicore brand 85-inch super high-def holovision two-way television screen, trademark, and cursed. "Damn boycottists," he roared, hurling the remote into the wreck. "They've sabotaged our TV. Again." Wendy Tubbs, real estate agent, wife, and mother of the aforementioned two, waddled in from the kitchen with plump little Rundle Jr. in her arms. Their faces were blackened, their hair singed.
"We're clearly being targeted then, because they hit our microwave too."
Rundle threw up his hands in despair. "How the hell do they keep getting in here? We've got all the home surveillance systems we've been told to buy." Lana Tubbs, first grader, daughter, and collector of tentacled teddies, towed a large shard of glass embedded in the floor.
"Maybe the TV and microwave just broke?"
Rundle and Wendy exchanged an anxious look. Throughout the living room, the cameras and microphones connected to the home surveillance system swiveled to their position. Boycottists," Rundle said. "Definitely those damn boycottists."
"We're being victimized, honey," Wendy said, loudly enough for the microphones to hear. "I'm almost honored our family is being targeted so often of late." "Googa gooba," Rundle Jr. babbled happily.
That line was really hard to write. Rundle Sr. scooped Lana up, wrapped his arms around Wendy, and planted a kiss on Rundle Jr.'s forehead. "Come on, gang. Let's do our duty and pre-order some toothbrushes." The microphones dutifully recorded the Tubbs' exuberant hurrahs, and the cameras noted how quickly they rallied to their home computer system. A corporate task force Pro Model 8B, trademark, to commence with a loyal shopping spree. Fortunately for the Tubbs, their home computer did not react to their presence in the same way as their previous two televisions and microwave had. Sadly, the same would not be said for the Sunkush toothbrushes they had just ordered, scheduled to be shipped from Gallicore distribution hubs across corporate space the following quarter. Thank you all. It's funny, but after my brother, who is my go-to beta reader, read this book, the first thing he said to me was, "Why the hell would anyone want to live here?" I went, "No." Well, that is the prologue from Into the Known Universe, a cosmic love story kind of, and the rest pretty much it sticks with the same tone, so I think you're all in for a treat. To conclude, they say that writing is a solo endeavor, and that's true, but only where the actual writing is concerned. Behind every successful writer stands a host of friends, family members, and loved ones who supported them along the way. Today, I wanted to give something back to everyone who supported me over the years that wasn't a free copy of the book. Hosting you all at this lovely golf club and providing you with some food and refreshments seemed like the least I could do to say thanks. On that note, I want to extend a hearty thanks to my dad, who, on top of supporting my creative endeavors all these years, also paid for the food and refreshments. I also wanted to extend a sincere thanks to the owners, who are not here, but Sean and Stephanie were gracious enough to work with my budget as I organized this launch. My budget, incidentally, was zero, so I think they deserve a hand. So. Though they were all named in the acknowledgements, I once again want to thank Ian and the Stray Books crew, without whom I honestly would not be here. If any of you are interested, he's got a book out too, and I've read it, and it's actually pretty damn great, so ask him about it and check it out. I also wanted to extend a thanks to my boss, Kristen, who unfortunately had to cancel at the last minute, but I'm going to thank her anyway for her flexibility over the years in letting me work part-time so I could actually make this book happen. I also wanted to extend an apology with that thanks because, full disclosure, I wrote most of this at my desk. And thanks to the rest of you for just coming and hanging out. So they're going to be bringing out some appetizers in a couple of minutes, and the kitchen is also open if any of you want to order a meal. And of course, the bar is open for drinks. So we have the place until about 6:37. So have some drinks, mingle, and come get your bucks.